Hi everyone, Melanie here from Thing Black Orchid. Today I'm going to attempt to answer some of the questions that you had about one of our special cakes called Tati's Baby. And of course, being prepared, I have a little picture of it for you. It really, literally is just the cutest little Volkswagen Beetle that you'll ever see. It's called Tati's Baby. It was made for the birthday of one of our assistants here at Thing Black Orchid. One of the big questions that we get all the time is hopefully you can see this from the picture, but it's raised off of the cake board. So you can see through. You can definitely see through the cake here. Hopefully you can see that. So the big question is, how do you get the cake raised off of the board? And then some of the other questions that we have are, how did you actually sculpt the cake to look like a car? Because a lot of our decorators out there know, there is no cake pan in the shape of a car yet, this car anyway. So this is probably going to be a two-part video. The first one, we'll talk about the structures and the supports that we use underneath the cake. And then of course, we'll talk about the cake itself, how we carved it. There's, believe it or not, surprisingly, there is not a lot of carving done on this particular cake because of the size that we made it in. We're also going to talk about how you can convert this from this particular size to a larger size. So with that, let's talk about the dimensions of this cake. This is not a big cake. It probably feeds anywhere from 5 to 10 people, depending on how you're cutting it. 5 are going to be really large slices. 10, of course, you're going to have more of an event size cake. It's probably about 14 inches long and it's about 8 inches wide. And the cake itself weighs no more than 10-15 pounds. And of course, we know that the majority of that weight comes from the fondant decor and ornamentation that we put on it. So with that, let's talk about the actual support system that's holding up the car, and then we'll talk about the conversion from what we're using so that you can indeed make this a much larger cake for a much larger event and crowd. For those of you who are familiar with a lot of the different supplies that are used out there in the cake decorating world, one of the best well-kept secrets is foam core. Instead of using your regular cardboard layers that we use in a lot of our everyday event cakes, we actually have used what we call foam core to support this particular cake. Foam core literally is just a piece of foam sandwiched between two pieces of kind of oak tag, and you can get these in very large sheets at your craft supply stores or at your art supply stores, and of course you can always get them online. Most commonly in the market, you're going to find foam core 1/4 of an inch thick. That's not quite enough for this. We are using a 1/2 of an inch thick piece of foam core for this particular cake. It's very important that you use a nice, strong, sturdy base. So this is the width that you have to use on this cake. If you go larger with this cake, you don't want to use foam core. You're going to go from foam core to about a 1/4 of an inch thick piece of wood, but you're going to use a lot of the same methods that we're going to talk about here to get that support system in place. Now, of course, because I'm in front of the camera, I can't manipulate a very large piece of foam core, so I'm going to kind of just use this smaller piece to talk about what we need to talk about for our baseboards. Now, if you can imagine, think about when you're making cakes like this, you need to think very architecturally. So you're kind of a jack of all trades. Not only are you a cake maker, but you are a GM engineer, or should I say Volkswagen engineer in this case. So you're going to think about your shape. Your support board is literally going to be cut out similar to a baseball cap. Okay, hopefully, I know I don't have a wide shot on this camera, but this is kind of a baseball cap. And you want to think about the curvature. The VW Bug is a very bulbous car. When you see them on the streets, there's a lot of very round things. So you want to just don't go with a round Joe baseball cap. You just kind of want to give this some curves. Okay, and of course we use our paper doll method. We just took a piece of paper, folded it in half, and cut out the silhouette. It looks a little cheesy, but it is the silhouette of a car. And then, of course, boom, you've got your baseball cap. Okay. Now you're, of course, going to take this pattern, put it on top of your foam core, and cut it out. Imperative. Let me stop and say here that when you are using foam core, it is imperative. It is a must that you use a very, very sharp X-Acto knife. In fact, take the blade off of the X-Acto knife, get a brand new blade, and start with it, okay? For those of you, I'm sure you've all used an X-Acto knife. You can get this at your hardware store or again at your local craft store. If you use a dull knife or a somewhat not sharp X-Acto knife, you will get the nastiest little crumbs. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. All of these crumbs. From the paper that's surrounding the board, and also the foam itself. And you do not want that. You do not want any potential non-edible products floating around on the base of your cake or inside your cake. That spells disaster. So again, let me stop and say, imperative that you use a very, very sharp X-Acto knife. Get a fresh blade each time you're going to cut your foam core. Okay, so you're going to take your baseball cap shape, of course, cut that out on your foam core, and then you have the base structure of what your cake is going to sit on. So now this cake is actually sitting on the wheels. The wheels are where the support is of what's holding up that board that we just talked about cutting out. So I'm going to show you this again so you can kind of envision with me. The support or the pillars or the poles that are holding up the cake are really the tires. They're underneath the tires. So what's inside of the tires that's allowing this cake to be supported off the board? Back to the foam core. We cut out, for the dimensions of this particular cake, we used about 1 inch wide and 1/2 inch thick little blocks. For each tire, we cut 3 of these. So we did this very quickly, so these are a little bit rough, but hopefully you'll be able to get the point. So 3 of these make each tire. Of course, if you're going to go with a larger cake, you're going to proportionately cut these larger, slightly wider. And we'll tell you the larger the cake, the more of these you're going to have to make, and we'll tell you how of course, how to do that. So each tire has this little 3-piece block encased inside of it. Okay. So we use a 50% gum paste, 50% fondant mix to get the tires. We literally just sculpt it and let them dry well in advance, little hubcaps. We wrap the actual tread around later because that could kind of, if the hubcaps, once they're dry, there's no give as far as if you need to cover more or not. But you can make the tread that goes around the tire thinner or thicker to kind of cover in and hide any kind of hidden inner structures that you need to, if that makes any sense to you. So the hubcaps are there. The tread literally goes on last. If any of this, by the way, folks, is confusing, or if we're missing something, or if you need a little bit more information, of course, you know, at the end we'll tell you how you can reach us for that. So let me show you how the cake actually sits on these little blocks. Give me just a second here to get this constructed for you. I'm going to try to manipulate the camera over so you can see in just a second exactly what we've done. So we've taken those 4 little blocks, moved them over. Okay, let me take the camera over so you can see this. Hopefully the light will allow you to see this in my office. Okay, so that literally is, you've got your foam core and you've got your little supports where your tires are. Now going back to thinking architecturally, you know that your car, the hood, has a little overhang, right? So the board is underneath the hood overhang, but your tires are not all the way to the front of it. So you see here, I mistakenly put it right at the front. You're literally going to kind of move this block. Hopefully I won't collapse this. Move these blocks back to make it look realistic. One of the cool things about making cakes like this is the more realistic they are, the more people really kind of laugh and smile and appreciate the final product. Okay, and so I'm going to manipulate this so that you can see what the back looks like. And surprisingly enough, these supports are not very wide, but remember, this is not a huge jumbo cake. Okay, all right, so that's what it's going to look like from the back. Now, the very first thing that we do before we actually stack this cake board on top of it is we put one of those hubcaps that we made much earlier, and it is now dry. We put it underneath. We kind of cut the top off because obviously it won't go there, but we put it underneath so that no matter what angle you're looking at this cake, there looks like there's a complete tire on both sides. Hopefully that makes sense to you. It's kind of hard if you can't actually see it. All right, and so then I'm going to try to put the camera back here now so I can finish the conversation with you great folks there. Okay, so that's the support system that holds up the cake, and of course, again, heavier the cake, the larger the support systems. Now, what you may want to do, if this cake is getting up into the 20 inches, 30 inches, 40 inches, anything greater than that, you definitely want to put one of these support systems in the middle. Okay, so this is your cake board. You're going to want to put one in the middle here. And you don't want to go with something this narrow, you're going to double it. And you'll know, just feel through it. If it's a big, huge cake, it's 20 inches, you maybe want to make this block about 4 inches by 4 inches, no less than 3 inches by 3 inches. It does kind of take the ooh, ah, you know, there's a clear path of sight underneath out of the cake. But more important than all that ooh, ah, is getting cake from point A to point B without collapsing it, because that's definitely ooh, ah. So if you need to put that support underneath there, just take some fondant, wrap this piece of the block with it, and color it. If your board is silver, color it silver. If the board is black, color it black. It's another little optical illusion, and you know we use tons of that when we're doing cakes. So again, the bigger your cake is, you want to put that support system underneath there. Okay, so that's it for the support system that's underneath the cake. Again, it is literally just foam core. supported by the four corner blocks that are then encased with fondant to actually create the tire effect. And the larger the cake, the more support you're going to want to use. You're going to use that block underneath in the center. Okay, if you have any other questions about the support system that goes underneath Tati's Baby, please feel free to write us at info@sweetthingblackorchid.com, or you can give us a call, 301-351-8042. And of course, you can visit our fan page. We've gone from a regular Facebook page to a fan page now, and just click on like. We'd love to have you. Okay, stand by very soon, and we'll talk about the actual structure and the carving of the cake. Thanks so much. Take care.